Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be taking a look at the Ketuo Knives Illusion. Now this isn't a new design for them. I think these came out about a year ago, possibly. I'm not 100% on that, but I've seen reviews about a year ago on these. And, you know, their knives, they usually have that futuristic look. And I mean, this one definitely has a futuristic look. And I'm good with that. I like different. We have so many knives that look the same. Getting something different is always a nice change. This is a larger EDC knife coming in at 8.26 inches overall. It has a 3.5 inch. I'm gonna call this a drop point recurve Tanto blade. Definitely interesting. This particular version has a two-tone blade finish, so you have a very, very fine, I'm guessing that's like a glass blast media, but I will say, you know, I'm usually not a fan of that type of finish. However, they do a lot of finishing work before they actually do this, so I have not had any corrosion issues yet with any of the Recurve or Ketuo knives. Then you also have the blasted finish on this milled out section on the blade and on this little window right here as well. Then on the flats you have a brushed satin finish. It's a nice contrast. There was another fancier version of this. Or, I mean, it looked fancier. It's the same price and everything, but I think it was sold out the last time I checked. Blade steel on this one is Bowler M390. That is something I wish we could see a little bit of variation from Ketuo and Recurve. They use M390 across the board. I would like to see some kind of variation. But pretty much every single time I pick this knife up, I notice something different. There's so much intricate detail in it. It's mind-blowing. So up until about a year or two ago, anytime I saw Recurve, I looked the other way. I could not stand them because, let's face it, Recurves aren't near as easy to sharpen. However, once I got comfortable sharpening Recurves, I don't mind them and I actually enjoy them because of how aggressive they are whenever you're cutting stuff. Recurve's great at trapping and drawing material in because whenever you catch it, that recurve section is going to pull deeper and deeper, kind of like a belly would into something, and it's going to catch itself pretty much right there. So as long as it's nice and sharp, it should be nice and aggressive. And then you have that bellied Tanto section. So if you want to use that to do push down cuts or kind of use this as a secondary tip, it's not so much of a secondary tip there. But being this is a drop point Tanto, if you wanted to, you could possibly use that tip to do a fine detail cut. It's gonna be great for piercing. And when it comes time to sharpen, if I don't feel like pulling out my fixed angled system, which that's pretty often, because I used to love sharpening. I just don't love it as much anymore ever since my accident because I can't really freehand as much anymore depending on certain things. But recently I bought this sharpener from Sharpal, and I own, I'd say 4 or 5 different sharpeners from Sharpal off of Amazon, but this one may just be my favorite of the bunch. So you have a smooth leather side that I have 1 micron on, and then your rougher one I think I have 12 micron on, and then you have these rounded ceramic stones right here, and then if you look right here you have angle settings and you have angles right here. So you turn this collar and you adjust to whatever your angle is on the knife, lay it on there, and then pass through. Why this is so awesome, and I'm not going to show it on this one because I literally sharpened this one up after the testing, so I don't want to do anything to that edge, and I did it on this. But this is an even more dramatic recurve on this Best Tech. Is it the Baha'i or something like that? And that can be a daunting task if you don't know what you're doing. But you have these round stones, get your angle, and as you can see, that round rod is going to get the entire edge. It's nice and small, and then you flip it over, come this side, and I'll show you this way. So as you can see there, it's getting the entire edge. And if you don't want to hold it like that, you can hold it like this, go vertical on both sides, however you want to do it. And then in the top of this thing, you have 1,000 grit diamond, and it tells you the type of diamond that it is and all. And then you have 2 coarse rods at 325 grit. You also have a tapered rod in the center to do serrations, and then you can screw this back on. And when you're not using this, if you want to, you can unscrew this whole piece off and put it in the bottom and store it like that so you don't get any debris on it. So yeah, this thing wasn't expensive at all. I'll try to remember to leave a link to this if you're interested. But made sharpening recurves so much easier for me. You can also use like 1/2-inch stones on a fixed angle system or freehand. The blade stock thickness on this one is 0.12, and then check that top view out. Looks like you got a little arrow right here from that milled out section. You do have some jimps up here, but as you can see, they're not super deep and they've been blasted over. So they're a good indexing point, but they don't offer much traction. They offer a tad. You do have some separation from the end of your edge, so you should have some sharpening life before you have to do anything there. And being as a recurve is not as big of a deal. You can see your little hole right there. It's a little tritium slot in the blade. That was the first thing I noticed, along with all this crazy milling. You have somewhat of a forward finger choil if you want to do like a pistol grip type choke up, or you can kind of sit at the top of that if you need to control that edge a little better. They managed to grind this nice and thin. At the thinnest portion is coming down to around 16 thousandths. So as long as this has a nice sharp edge, it should be a crazy good slicer. Let's find out. Well, I hope you all enjoyed that cutting. I know I did. Now let's take a look at the deployment in action of this knife. So you have this front flipper tab, which is kind of huge, but it does sit over the top portion of the scale. So that means you can have full contact to do a roll around if you need to do a nice controlled open so you don't scare somebody, say, on side of you. The jimping is good enough, and you got a high enough flipper that you got a lot of leverage, and it's easy for me to get around. I can do the reach around as well as long as I don't have my finger on that lock bar, and I can do the knuckle roll. So the front flipper works good. And then you have this blade window, wherever you want to call it, and it's got some sharpness to it, so you can easily hook your fingernail. I put my fingernail right here at the corner of that, but I can put it anywhere. The D10 on mine is nice and positive, but it's not too strong to where I can't reliably get a reverse flick if I want to. See, can I thumb flick it? Yeah, I can thumb flick it, or if I want, I can slow roll that as well. Of course, it's nice and smooth, just like every Ketuo or Wright knife I've reviewed on this channel. Riding on cage ceramic bearings. Now let's close it up, take a look at this handle area. So you have titanium scales with a nice gentle contour on them. I did notice that contour when cutting. It was nice and comfortable, and they carried over all the intricate milling on this side. So you have a deeper chamfer here, then a step down here, then you have this triangle milled here that goes into another triangle in the corner of that triangle, and this line that goes all the way back here, you know, milling for days. And I saw the triangle there, and I was like, I guess that's just a blade window. Then the next time I picked it up, I had it open, and I noticed that is another tritium slot back there. I think that would be pretty cool if I had a little tritium valve in there. Too bad it doesn't come with that. Tons of detail. So you have all this external milling to help bring down the weight and the contouring. And you also have pocketing on the inside of the scales to help bring down the weight, and I'm sure to balance out the knife, bringing this one to 114 grams or 4.02 ounces. And I thought this one carried well. It definitely doesn't feel like a 4-ounce knife. So there's where your balance point is, right there in that forward choil area, exactly where you want it to be. And I would guess that's why it didn't really feel like a 4-ounce knife to me. But I think you're getting that little bit extra weight because you have almost this full-length titanium backspacer that is a little bit proud of the scales, but it's got chamfers there. Look at all the milling. Then you have a geared section here and a hidden lanyard post in the back for all the lanyard people out there. And if you didn't notice already, your show side has no body screws. It's pretty interesting the way they did this. And then you have a blue anodized titanium pivot collar on this side. And on this side, you have your Torx T8 head right there. And then this side, you have all that same milling, except you don't have your through hole here, I'm sure, because of the lock bar cutout. You have a hardened stainless steel lock insert there, milled titanium pocket clip, good tension. The one thing I would have loved to see on this one is this lock relief milling put on the inside. I don't understand why more companies don't do that. I know it's an extra step in the machining process. You got to flip it over. I used to work at a machine shop, but it would just look so much cleaner. And I know Ketuo, right? I know they can do that. It doesn't break up the clean line, especially when you have so much milling on a knife. What are y'all thoughts on that? You have tip up carry only, and it is right-handed carry only. It's not deep carry, but it sits more deep carry than most of my deep carry knives. So that's what you have sticking out. And when it came to the ergos, everything I thought was really comfortable. I did not notice any kind of fatiguing or anything poking or prodding me until I was testing the ergos with the wood. Light to moderate pressure. It was perfectly comfortable. Nothing bothered me, and I was choked up like this. I did try back here on some cuts, but that wasn't too comfortable for me. This choke up spot was the most comfortable. But for me, I thought it was nice and comfortable. It's hard to show. It's kind of dark in there. But the lockup on this knife, I'd say about 20 to 30%. Access to the lock bar, I'm just going to say is okay, because it is flush with the show side scale. And these aren't super thick slabs of titanium, so the chamfers can't be super wide. So I can get my thumb in there. I don't find using my tip of my thumb to be the most comfortable. It's not terrible or anything, but I revert to this portion of my thumb, like this up here and this portion pretty much all the time anyway. And whenever I disengage that lock that way, it's perfectly fine. The lockup, yeah, super tight lockup, like a bank vault. No movement up or down, left or right. Exactly how I want to see it. Now for some size comparisons. As you can see here, it's in the middle of the Ontario Wrap 1 and 2, and it's just about identical in length to the Spyderco PM2, and it's a good bit bigger than the Power 3. And it's just a hair shorter than the Hogue Ritter RSK, and it dwarfs the Mini RSK. And I'm always getting tons of questions and emails asking. These are original goat aluminum scales. I have a link in the description with a discount code. So hopefully that will answer tons of questions in emails. Now, being that absolutely no knife's perfect, what are my nitpicks complaints? First off, I think it would have been nicer to have a little bit sharper cut, fine cut jimping, just like that, just a little bit sharper. However, like I said, I can reliably front flip it, so it's not really that big of a deal. But if you're somebody who has to have super grippy jimping for their folders, then this one may fall short for you. I always prefer a nice raw stone wash finish over any kind of blasted finish. However, this one doesn't have, so far I haven't had any of the corrosion aspects of a blasted finish. Like I said, I think it's because of the finishing they do before they actually start doing the blasting. There's no lefty love. Doesn't really affect me, but it does affect my lefties. I mean, if I really want to be nitpicky, maybe a little bit more of a sharpening choil, but you should have some sharpening before you have to worry about that anyway. So what are my final thoughts? I think it's a super cool looking knife. The more I carried it and the more I used it, this one I bonded with more than some of the other ones that I've reviewed on the channel. It's an aggressive look, but it's a great performer. As long as you keep this nice and sharp, it's nice and slicey. I thought it was nice and comfortable, especially in the choke up position for all the type of stuff I do on a day-to-day basis. Do wish they had a little bit better lock access, but like I said, when I use that portion, it's no problem whatsoever. So I personally love the knife. It's an easy one to carry, and I think the price is right. I mean, for the amount of milling time alone on this, the intricacies, the premium steel, premium materials, and this one comes at $250. I definitely don't think that's out of line at all. I'd love to hear y'all thoughts on that, and what are your thoughts on recurve knives like this? Do you like them? Are you scared to sharpen them? Do you only not like them because you're scared to sharpen them? If you're somebody who likes a aggressive performer, buy yourself a cheap recurve knife and test it out so you can see what I'm talking about. That's going to do it for today's video. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave those down below and I'll do my best to get back with you. I hope every one of y'all is having a fantastic day. Remember, keep those blades sharp, smile more.